Welcome to another edition of the Santa Fe, New Mexican Sports Podcast, and this was a big one, James. And you know how I can tell it's big? You know how I can tell it's big because you're wearing a suit and a tie. You're wearing a shirt and a tie. And anyone who knows James Barron knows the only time he dresses up at all is to go to the state basketball tournament. The state basketball,
or when I'm required to by Chris.
Yeah, you do that, and I'm wearing my nicest black hoodie today with my Angels cap that I've had forever, which is basically faded into almost like a light pink at this point. I've been wearing it so much. But,
yeah. I know our producer and I were talking about getting you just like one of those little clip-on ties. It doesn't matter what you wear, just wear it just to make it look like you're somewhat classy.
You know, I might break out a collared shirt. I haven't worn a collared shirt since I think 2018. I'll have to check. I'll have to go back and check. It's been a long time. Wow. And maybe 2017 when I got married. But yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But anyway, the state basketball tournament, we're recording this on a Tuesday. We're going to do a couple podcasts this week. Of course, we're updating our newsletter every single day this week. Yeah. It is SantaFe.com, SantaFeNewMexican.com/newsletters. It is In the Huddle. So if you look for In the Huddle in our newsletter section on our website, you'll find it. Subscribe to it. We'll update you every single day and all the goings on and a lot of stuff. We're doing this on a Tuesday morning. So the girls' state tournament has already started this morning. Boys kicks off Wednesday, and then Thursday is like the goulash of boys and girls together. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's good times, James. And I'm glad to see you ironed your shirt. So you do look nice today.
Thanks. Well, I got an adoring public there that was always wondering what's James going to wear this year. So here's a sneak peek for Tuesday. We'll have to wait and see how the rest of the week goes, right?
You got your slacks on your polished shirt, and it's a weird thing is I love watching Instagram. And if for some reason my algorithm hooked me up with it's called Mr. Shoe Shine, and it's a guy who makes like 30 to 60-minute reels on shining shoes. I cannot wait to see your shoes so I can judge you on your shoes. I'll be wearing my nicest sneakers, my Adidas white tennis shoes, my dad's shoes, as my kids call them. But can't wait to see your total fit, man.
That's something I got to work on is the shoe collection. I've got plenty of shirts and slacks and everything. But I've got like 2 pairs of shoes, and so I gotta step up my game on that.
Yeah, I do. I'm a little envious, I gotta admit, because I never dress up ever. So yeah,
it takes a lot of time, especially the ironing part.
Yeah, and I'm not good with that. The bachelor iron though is the spray bottle, and then just wring your clothes out, and then just let them air dry. That's the best way to.
The air dry, yeah.
Yeah, it works very well on cotton T-shirts. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But look, Tuesday we do have some games involving teams from the northern area this week, just like we do all the time. But we have the AAA quarterfinals today. Robertson is playing Crown Point this afternoon, and tonight Santa Fe Indian School, a team which, by all intents and purposes, could contend for a state championship. They should. And then we have the 2A quarterfinals. Penasco is playing Texaco. That's a tough game because Texaco is a perennial power, and then Mesa Vista against JAL. You kind of feel sorry for the kids from JAL having to drive all the way up here. So it's a long trip.
Hey, but these two teams played each other earlier in the year, and JAL only lost by 1. Now, granted, Mesa Vista didn't have everybody on their team. They were missing Janessa Sandoval, and she makes a significant difference there. But I still expect Mesa Vista to win the game. But it's not going to be the romp that maybe people are expecting.
Yeah, I know you touched on this a little bit too, but there's a possibility that the Indian School boys and girls and Mesa Vista boys and girls could sweep through the state championship. You very rarely see that where boys and girls teams. We've seen it, of course, in recent, like Volcano Vista, boys and girls, the same thing. Yeah. But to have 2 teams from there, I don't know if that's ever happened in the Santa Fe area where 2 schools.
Off the top of my head, I can't. We've come close a few times. I think Pecos did. I think 1 year during Pecos's 4-peat, when Ron Drake won his first state title, I believe it was 2019. That was, I think, the last time that we've seen both programs in the two teams win state titles from our region. So this would be kind of neat to see that happen.
Yeah. Well, then the boys stuff kicks off tomorrow, or tips off tomorrow, to use basketball parlance. And the dreaded 8 o'clock, the 8 a.m. game at the Star Center or the Event Center, Mora against Texaco. Like, I'll give it up for the Mora fans. There's usually Mora for some reason always gets stuck in that 8 a.m. game.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah.
It's somebody. It's either Penasco or Mora. They never stick Pecos, and they don't really stick Mesa Vista in that 8 o'clock time slot. It always ends up being one of those.
Yeah, and they usually draw well. There's a lot of people from Mora that come down, and look, you and I both know people from Mora. They're not the stay overnight type fans. They're the kinds that'll get up at 4 a.m. just to drive down to Rio Rancho.
Yeah, they will.
Just to come down there, so that when they get into that building, they are revved up and ready to go. So it's an 8 a.m. game, and everyone's exhausted except for the fans, which is exciting. That'll be fun to watch.
No, it should be, and I'll be there right at at the butt crack of dawn to be there for that game, because we've got 6 games at the Star Center tomorrow. It starts with Mora Texaco, and then we have the 11:30 game between Pecos and Albuquerque Manal, who upset Escalante in the first round, and then we follow that right up with Robertson and Tularosa, which I think a lot of people are picking Robertson to win that game. And interestingly, the two teams played each other. I believe it was in late December, early January, and Robertson lost on a last-second shot. So I mean, they definitely have the ability to upset Tularosa. And I think, again, we talked about it before. I think everybody looks at that side of the bracket and they feel like that's where you're going to see some the upsets, whether you see Bosque, who plays at 9:45, and we can't forget about that because our good friend Gerard Garcia, who's the interim coach at Bosque, is playing Cobre, the number 3 seed in that game, and that should be a really exciting one right there.
Speaking of Cobre, look, I know you're huge in Cobre and Bayard. James Barron,
we are all besties right now, man. We've been Snapchatting and Instagramming all the time, man. We're planning up our vacations in the summer together.
See, now you need to give some backstory here, because I was privy to it. I watched you on the It was the ProView Network shows. It was a
ProView Network show, and basically I kind of called out Cobre and saying I'm not sure they really do. I guess I should say I didn't think they deserved the 2 seed, and I think I followed up in a column basically saying they're not a bad team. I'm not saying they don't deserve to be seated highly, but I wasn't. And I'm sorry, 3. Tularosa was at the 2 was also those 2 seeds. I think right there caught everybody's attention. They're like, wow, especially when you realize that Navajo Prep Indian School and St. Mike's basically been in the top 3 in the coaches poll pretty much the last 2 months of the season.
Tularosa almost proved you right, but against West Las Vegas, you almost had 15 overs.
They get taken to overtime, so that's not a good sign for them. But the Cobre fans did not appreciate me saying that, and they've used my words as motivation, feeling like they're disrespected. And all I can say is this: hey, we're at the state tournament now. If you win, you're in the respect. Part of the reason why I said what I said was you looked at their schedule and compared it to even a school like Bosque, which plays a lot of Albuquerque schools. They played St. Mike's, they played Robertson. They played teams that have tested them, and you look at their record and it's not great. But I mean, when you're 16-10 and you're losing to teams like Hope and St. Michael's, and you're pulling out games against Robertson, you're being battle tested. And when I look at Cobre and Tularosa's schedule, more so Cobre's and Tularosa's, I saw a team that they played a couple of 4A schools, a 5A school, but most of them were like 2A and single A schools in their district. I mean, shoot, they haven't had a game in the last 7 weeks that has been decided by more than 14 points, and that was over the weekend against Ruidoso.
So the $1 million question: how far does Cobre go? Does Gerard Garcia take care of them for you and knock them off in the quarterfinals?
I fully expect this to go down to the final possession. I really do. I think that both of those teams match up really well. Bosque's got a great guard in Josiah Wilson, and they've got the size to be able to match up with Cobre, because Cobre has the Guck brothers, 165, 162, but they're both very they're 2 best players on the team, and I think it's a great matchup, and I think it's really going to come down to who has the ball last. But with that said, my gut, or maybe it's more my heart, I should say, more than anything else. I'm kind of leaning toward Bosque, and some of that has to do with it's Gerard, man. I mean, look at what he did 4 years ago when he was in the same situation. He got St. Michael's into the championship game when he came in as an interim coach, and I think his track record speaks for itself. And the way Bosque is playing, I give them a puncher's chance of getting to at least at the semifinals, if not the championship.
I think this is probably the perfect opportunity to remind you that there's no cheering allowed on press row. So you can't be openly cheering for Bosque.
Hey, you don't have to worry about me. It's some of those other people that show up. You're like,
Yeah.
guys, this isn't the place for that.
Yeah. So anyone who goes to the 9:45 a.m. quarterfinal game in the Event Center for Class 3A boys tomorrow on Wednesday, take a look down in press row and see where if James is wearing a blue shirt for Bosque or a red shirt for Cobre, we know which direction he's leaning. So that's the big question today: is what color shirt?
It could be St. Mike's blue. You know that, right? I mean, we got 3 teams that wear blue, or we got a couple of teams that wear blue. So
we always get the whole say, St. Mike's homer or whatever, but you kind of have to follow the winners. St. Mike's has done well. Historically they do pretty well at the state tournament. And by the way, here we are in the state quarterfinals. Where's everyone else? They're sitting at home watching just like pretty much every other team in our area.
Yeah, they definitely are. But getting back to Wednesday here real quick. I mean, the big game I feel out of the entire schedule of games there at the event center is the 8:15 game. You got number 4 Navajo Prep against number 5 Santa Fe Indian School. The last time these teams played, it came down to a last-second shot. Navajo Prep hit a buzzer beater to beat Indian School. Came back from a 7-point deficit in the last 2.5 minutes. That's going to be another great game, and I fully expect that to be much the same way.
Should be a great crowd for that game too.
Oh, an amazing crowd. We were blown away by the crowd that we saw for the St. Mike's Indian School game for the district championship. I think this one will be right there, if not bigger.
Yeah, there's a weird dynamic, and I think you and I have both seen this. Is the Indian School is a collection of kids from different pueblos all around the state.
Yeah.
And I've talked to several Indian School coaches over the years that when they go to the Northwest corner to play the Navajo Preps, the teams from that area, there's a genuine dislike that they have for the Indian School. They see them as kind of these
interlopers.
Exactly. And so that was surprising to me. I did not expect that kind of vitriol between the Indian School and the schools from that area, but it does exist, and there's a very real subsurface tension between the fan bases and the people there. So that's always an added dynamic to it. So when you hear the crowds, they're going nuts. It's a genuine sense of passion to beat one another. So yeah, absolutely,
and just a great atmosphere, and what a way to end Wednesday night. I mean, it's going to be like almost 10 o'clock by the time we get out of there, but it's going to be a great crowd, and it's going to be a great atmosphere.
Yeah, that's always the best. And that's the thing is I wish the 3A stuff was in the pit. I understand that you have to put the 4 and the 5A stuff in the state's biggest building, but there are times where you feel so far out of touch when you're in the event center.
Because the way
hard to get to.
Yeah, it was a hockey rink initially, and they use it it's a multi-purpose arena, and so the crowd's a lot further away from the court than it is, say, at the pit or even at a regular high school gym.
Yeah, it's a polished version of Tingley Coliseum from back in the day. For anyone old enough to remember how the state tournament used to be in Tingley, kind of drafty, and the seats are pretty far away if you're sitting on the ends, especially. But look, you can't play every game in the pit. There's a finite number of games you can have in the University Arena, and unfortunately, until the crowds get to the point where you're having 1,000 people out in the parking lot for the 3A and 2A games, it's going to remain that way, because I think in a lot of remember they used to have the 5A girls games over in the pit because they weren't drawing nearly as well as the small schools.
Yeah, they had the 4A and 3A games there for on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then the big schools kind of threw a bit of a fit about it, saying that they deserve to play on the pit floor, and it's like, well, you got to bring the crowds.
Yeah,
it becomes a money-making issue then.
To me, I think the thing I'll always remember about every single state tournament is not so much one thing; it's that the feeling of finality after literally every single game. Yeah. After every single game, there's tears and there's an emotional outburst from both ends of the spectrum, and so you go to those post-game interviews, and I'm telling you, by the end of the week, after having you and I.
Oh yeah, it's emotionally draining, man.
Seeing
the emotions on both ends. I mean, you talk about just both sides of the spectrum there. You get the high that you get from winning, and then you got these horrible lows that these kids that have seen their season end. And sometimes, especially when they lose games like on a buzzer beater, or when they lose and they blow a 7-point lead, like in the last 2 minutes. I mean,
Mhm.
those types of press conferences are even worse because it just feels like it's a funeral more than a press conference.
Yeah. Yeah. And on the flip side, I think one of my single fondest memories, the memory I'll always carry with me, was when Espanola boys won their first state championship with the Richard Martinez team. And I remember I was working on my story after that incredible interview that he did, where he talked about, the old ladies at the
The
grocery
ladies of
stores.
the grocery stores, yeah.
And so my laptop was starting to die, and I had to run back out to my car, which is in the media parking lot. You have to go up that service ramp to get out to the
Yeah.
media lot. And so I went to go get my charger cord out of there. And as I did, I emerged into the parking lot, and there must have been 3,000 or 4,000 Espanola fans just
They were still
waiting
there.
for this, because they knew that that's where the team came from. And there were grown men, literally grown men in the parking lot crying. They're little kids with ponytails, and they were just waiting for their Sun Devils to come out. And I got back. It took me probably 20 minutes to get there and back to my car. People were stopping to talk about it. Rewrote my entire story based on that experience. It was just incredible because when a team wins, especially a team from a community that really supports its basketball team, it gives you a perspective that's very few things can. And that's one of the beautiful things about the state basketball tournament, is just how it can literally change lives. And for generations to come, they're always going to talk about that year that Espanola won it. That's a team that will live in infamy for the best and worst of everything that goes on there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I was caught in the middle of that, because I was trying to get out,
Mhm.
because we wanted to go and just write and get away from all of that mess and everything, but couldn't get out there. Stuck in traffic for like 20 minutes. And there
Yeah.
were Espanola fans coming up and literally pounding on my car as they
Yeah.
were walking by, just celebrating and
Yeah.
cheering and and thanking us for our coverage and everything of them during that time. Which
Yeah.
is kind of nice, because I've kind of had a love-hate relationship with Espanola. So, when they won, they appreciate you, and I think that's the biggest thing, was just just seeing, just like you said, the passion of those fans, and how much they love their basketball teams.
Look at James Barron out there making enemies and friends all at the
All at the
same
same
time.
time, yeah.
Like, I know that guy. Just flattened the tires in his car. That's why when I cover a Lobo game, usually I escape and I'll go to my car. So have you ever tried to write a story from the media room?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, because everybody wants to talk to each other after the
Oh
game,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't get anything done. So a lot of times I'll retreat to my car and just sit out, because the Wi-Fi extends all the way out to the parking lot. And so I'll just sit in my car. I've been known for that. I'm the guy who sits in my car writing stories on the Lobo basketball game on deadline from the front seat of my car. That's my office. So yeah, it's always different. The state tournament brings out a lot of weird things about the lifestyle of a sports journalist, and
I
that's
just wonder, do they bring the stats out to you in the car, because they know it's like, oh yeah, you got to bring one out the room.
Yeah, it's like as soon as they get done, all right, guys, see ya. I don't have time to chat. I'm on deadline. Unlike the rest of you guys who just sit here and tweet all game and write your internet blog stuff, we actually still have deadlines. The two newspapers that are still left, we still have a deadline. So we got to do that. But no, it's good time, and I know. Look, it is Tuesday morning. You and I are still fresh as all get out. By Saturday, you and I are going to both be
We're gonna be
exhausted.
dragging. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be dragging.
You're gonna get so sick and tired of basketball, and then you turn around and Selection Sunday is this weekend too. So
I
then
know. We still got to wait to see where the Lobos end up, and I
yeah.
think after what happened last week, we talked about this. I think before.
Mhm.
It almost feels like they have to win the conference tournament now. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no way out.
I think really, in some ways, it comes down to this, because like the West Coast Conference is going to get 3 teams. They're going to get Santa Clara, St. Mary's, and Gonzaga, and then there's other leagues that are going to have bid stealers, which we've already seen. I think the Mountain West does get 2 teams, and I think if San Diego State and the Lobos play in the semifinals of the conference tournament, which is a possibility, I think in a lot of ways that's a playoff game. The winner of that game, I think the committee finds a way to get one of them to Dayton. And so you'll find out Sunday, and then they'll probably play a game on Tuesday, which is a super fast turnaround. Then the question is, does the New Mexican send us out to Dayton? So like we're going to start
for the play-in game.
Yeah, like
Hey,
I've never
remember you've gone out on a limb and said this before, and then it turns
Mhm.
out they had to win the conference tournament to even get
Yeah.
in 2 years ago. So let's
Yeah.
be careful with your prognostications, man. You haven't exactly been on par with that.
Well, that was 2 years ago. It looked like they were in for sure if they'd have won one game, but then that was a year they had a lot of bid stealers, so that
Yeah.
came in. And so more than anything, I think UNM, is looking forward to having a chance to get into the conference championship game. Look, and any one of the top 8 teams can legitimately win the Mountain West Championship this week. And the Lobos are certainly one of them. But 2 years ago, everyone just got hot. There was a lot of 4 or 5 seeded teams in their conference tournaments that snuck in. And so that is as much their enemy as anything else. So, but look, Lobo basketball team, they're super unpredictable. They're a lot like any other. I think the entire Mountain West is just literally any one of the top 8 teams can win in there. Like Utah State, I think Utah State has a very tough time because they match up with UNLV in the quarterfinals. UNLV, you just never know what UNLV team's going to show up. They could be great, or they could play like you and I do on Thursday mornings and just be wildly inconsistent, throw the ball over the backboard. And then they got Grand Canyon on the same side of their bracket, whereas UNM plays Boise State, potentially a team that's already beaten them twice. But it's one of these the coach speak things. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. So can UNM kind of finally get the best of a team that's had their number for the longest time? And then you get San Diego State, a team that they've played very well against the last 4 or 5 years. So look. That said, the Lobos might actually lose the first game. You just never know. Or they could win the whole tournament. You just have no idea. But either way, I curse the Mountain West Conference with every bit of energy I have because they play at 9:30 on Thursday night, which is going to be a nightmare for a guy who's on deadline. And then if they win, they play in the semifinals on Friday night at 10 o'clock. So, it's like calling the editor, can we hold the presses until the game is over? So
and the nice thing is that they know how much, even in northern New Mexico, how much they love Lobo basketball. So they'll give you that grace, dude. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of college basketball, that kind of gives us a nice segue into our guest today. We'll take a break. We'll welcome in our guest. Of course, a guy that we've both known for a long time, and he has a lot of strong ties, not only to UNM but to our area in St. Mike's. We can drop in the what he thinks of Paul Weir potentially taking over as the president at his alma mater. So we'll introduce our guest when we come back from break. We'll give us a minute and we'll talk about that. Well, welcome back. James, I don't know how much you get paid for those commercial breaks, those little breaks that we do. We really should work in some sort of commercial aspect to this. That way you can get nicer shirts. You can actually get nicer shoes.
Oh, thanks, man. Now you're critiquing a guy that wears sweatshirts to every single game. You're critiquing me right now.
Just so you know, this is a waffled shirt. Okay, so even though it's supposed to be 78 degrees today, it's going to be a nice waffled, faded. There's a little hole in the back here where one of my dogs chewed a hole in my shirt. So you and I can do
waffle. Was that from where you dropped a waffle on your shirt or what?
Like, who wears waffled shirts anymore? I think I might have bought this from Kmart back in like 2003 or something. I don't know.
Man, you really are living 25 years in the past.
Guys, dude, this hat was one of the first Angels hats they sold when they switched over in 2001. So I've had this hat forever, and I love this hat. And my wife threatened to wash it for me one time. I was like, "You touch my Angels hat, there's going to be some serious problems. We're gonna have some real issues here." So never touch a man's hat.
In a wash, dude. Come on.
No, it would come out kind of like regular red. There's salt sweat stains all over this hat from my time in the backyard. Never ever touch a man's hat. Don't do that. Anyway, with that, we're going to introduce our guest today, Estevan Sandoval. He's an assistant basketball coach at the University of North Dakota. UND just played in the Summit League Conference Tournament Championship game. Lost. I know before the break, we're talking about bid stealers for the Lobos. Had you guys won that game, that's a bid steal. You might have actually cost your alma mater a chance at the NCAA tournament if you won that game. You know that, right?
I would have owed Ryan Berryman probably an apology call, and maybe owed him a meal now that he's got that big job.
He's the boss. he's the boss. When Eric Olin leaves, we already know who the head coach is going to be.
I don't know about that. I think there's some fine candidates out there, and whatever Ryan has to do, he's going to have to do, and he's going to be awesome at that role. So there's nobody I could be happier for. I mean, he's earned every bit of that. They talk about how young he is, but his experience, having to do what he did as a GA, stepping into an ops role for the time he did, he's earned every bit of the success he's having. So I couldn't be happier for him and Janae and his family.
Yeah, just a really good dude. James and I had him on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, and that's everyone talks about his age first, but the truth is, like, when all that stuff, the financial stuff was going on at UNM back in 2017-18, he was front and center for all of it. So no one really knows the ins and outs, how the sausage is made at UNM, quite like Ryan Berryman. He's the perfect guy for that job.
No doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt. He sat in countless rooms that, being a student regent, being, the finance guy for him for the years that he was, like, he's really dug them out of a hole that I don't know if people understand how hard that is to do in athletics, especially at the mid-major level, right? Like, we can say what we want. New Mexico is a mid-major, and he's done something there that's really, really special. And, him and the guys that have come before him in that role have done a spectacular job of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I don't know how much you want to dig deep into this and everything, but I know you and Ryan kind of have a rather special relationship, because not just because of the fact that you guys both went to UNM and everything, but you guys go back a ways, even before then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I met Ryan in the summer of 2013, the year I graduated from St. Mike's, and I was going off to college, and Coach Geyer had hit up Craig Snow on the staff and got me to go work camps, and that's where I met Ryan, as working Craig Neal basketball camps. And that was kind of my tryout for being a manager. And him and Kevin McCurdy really, really did a great job mentoring me. I was an 18-year-old kid, and as many of us as 18-year-olds, we were kind of all over the place, not sure what we wanted to do. And those guys gave me some real direction and have become my best friends.
Yeah, it's Kevin he's omnipresent at Lobo basketball games to this day. He's still that guy. But during the Nevada came into town, I don't know, probably 3 weeks ago, and I had a chance to, when I was walking by the Nevada locker room, of course, everything in those hallways are super confined. Craig was talking to Ryan, and Steve was out there with him. It was like a little family reunion. And it actually did cross my mind. It's like, gosh, if Estevan was here, it'd be perfect. What would that meeting of the minds be like? Because
no doubt,
you're an assistant, you're kind of getting into the business that they're in now, and then Ryan, what would it have been like to have the two of you talking to all?
It would have been a lot of reminiscing on just some fun times, some hard times. I mean, you go through the journey of every single season, and the good and the bad that come with it. It's we're sitting with our team last night, or I guess 2 nights ago now, and just reminiscing on the year that we've had, like, all together. It wasn't like there was guys missing. It was everybody kind of hanging out together, and it's bittersweet, because that's probably the last time, especially now, that that one group, singular group, will be together. So anytime you can get 3 or 4 people together from a group like that, there's a lot of stories that come out, and good and bad, right? Like, where you're laughing at some of it, you're angry about some of it, and but it's special. There's something special about the journey that a college basketball team goes on, because it's like a 10-month journey. It's not. It's longer than people even have any idea of.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of which, let's talk about the journey you and your team did, the Fighting Hawks, last week, coming into Sunday and everything. I mean, 3 seed kind of, going into the tournament. Obviously, that means you guys did your job during the conference season and everything, but you guys are kind of struggling there, the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season before you got to the tournament.
Yeah, no doubt. We struggled with some injuries all of February. We lost 2 of our starters for a week or 2 here and there. Our big man broke his hand, and he doesn't score the ball, but what he does do is not on a stat sheet. Like, he moves people, and I was telling this to our staff. We were 10-4 in league play with him in the lineup, and we were 1-5 without him in the lineup. So, 10-3, and then 1-4.
1-4.
That's
okay.
what it was. Yeah, 1-4. So, I mean, it was a big loss to not have him on the floor. And then Garrett Anderson, our wing, he sustained a couple knee ding-ups. So we had him out for a couple weeks just as a precaution. So that hurt us in that stretch. But, I mean, we had a really resilient group, and it really showed in the tournament as we kind of came back from those 2 losses on the road, 2 of the kind of harder places to play in our league. We bounced back pretty hard and showed up in the tournament and played as a resilient, tough group.
The climbing the coaching ladder is never easy, which means one, you're living out of a suitcase probably forever. You just never really know what your future is going to be like. But it's a unique challenge. It's not like being an accountant where you can have some stability. There's not a lot of stability there, especially with the transfer portal and all that stuff going on. But like, how difficult if you're trying to sell this lifestyle to somebody, how do you describe it?
I mean, you better have some support around you. Like my wife is a rock star, A+. Like she's the leader of our household. She's the leader of my life. She's my rock. She does everything that, a man could ask that's in this profession. So like I give her a lot of credit. I'm lucky enough to know that she's from Santa Fe. So like when we go home, at least we're not going to two different places. We go home and we go home together. So that's a good thing. But she's 19 and a half hours away from home as well. So like that's hard. And that takes real sacrifice. And so I think that's the first thing is if you're going to find a partner who's all in on what you do. And there's no doubt that what we do is really, really hard. I leave tomorrow on a trip for a week. I was telling Cameron Romero, who played with me at St. Mike's, who's on staff with Coach Cole at Cleveland. He was asking me, hey, so like, do you guys get a week off after this? And I was like, dude, I get on a flight tomorrow. I go to Odessa, Texas to watch JUCO on Thursday. And then Friday, I'm on a 6 a.m. flight to California to go watch JUCO in California. I'm back home on Sunday. And then I'm probably leaving on another trip next week somewhere. It just doesn't stop. And, part of it's the portal era, right? Like we're going to have guys that need to leave or want to leave. And some that are getting offered money and then some that just need to find a better place that fits them better. And, that's not a bad thing. It's just part of what it is now. And I think if we get caught up in that, then we're kind of doomed to fail. We better adapt to it and operate in that spectrum.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You kind of talked about your wife there and I find it, especially because we're talking about the state basketball tournament, but your side, your family went to St. Mike's. Her family right now, they're like they're like the king and queen of Santa Fe Indian School. I can't imagine those brave horsemen games are necessarily fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't. To be fair, the last St. Mike's game I watched was when Santa Fe High played over there, so I haven't followed quite well enough. Probably, I really do watch my dad.
Let's be honest.
I watch all the Demon games just because of my dad. But mostly that, and then obviously Paul and Lynette are awesome, and yeah. I think we learn our kind of servant leadership from our parents. I mean, what they do and the sacrifices they made as we were kids to like show us these lessons and be a part of sports. She won a state championship in cheer. I don't hear the end of that because I finished second. So she's always on that with me, but. Good for her. I was very happy for her. I was at her deal when she was a senior, and watched her win a state championship. So that was really cool. Like I'll have that memory with me forever. And she just makes sure she shows me that ring every time. And so I got nothing to say to her on that. She's got one and I don't. But I don't hear the end of it. So
yeah. I don't know if you never actually crossed paths with Paul Weir, did you? That era, those two eras never intermingled.
I was a GA for Paul Weir.
A GA, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so James and I both attended the Indian School St. Mike's district championship game, and of course the buzz that day was that Weir was interviewing for the president's job, which is vacant. So I drove up there after the Lobos played San Diego State that day, and Paul Weir was sitting in the stands, and I was going to go try to talk to him, and he saw me coming. He avoided me like COVID. He wanted nothing to do with me. So first of all, this will be a two-part question. What's it going to take for the media to get a hold of Paul Weir? Because I'm still waiting for him to call me back after he got fired in 2017, and then or whatever year it was, 2021. And then second of all, what would you think about Paul Weir taking over your alma mater?
It would be a really weird, cross of paths intertwined kind of my life, and so that would be kind of interesting and cool. Working for him was awesome. I mean, I learned a ton. I learned what it took to work as hard as you have to work to be in this. There was nobody in that building when he was going through, our years and the struggles and the ups and downs of it, that worked harder. If I learned anything from him, it's that like the relentless pursuit of just trying to get better. And so I do think, I haven't been home in a long time, so I haven't seen what St. Mike's looks like. There's a lot that I don't know, and I can't speak to.
Nothing's
I
changed.
know.
You haven't missed anything.
Okay, well, I
like-
know that having the culture and the tradition that St. Mike's had at the time I was there, like there's nothing like that. And so like to be able to run an operation with that in Santa Fe would be really, really cool. And I think he would do a really good job. I think he'd really help. You know, I don't know who the other candidates are, and you know, I'm so far out of that race that I can't make a call, but it would be really cool to kind of see. And I think he would work really, really hard.
Yeah.
So is his first call to you to hit you up just for a donation?
Right.
He probably would immediately. I don't get too many calls from St. Mike's. I think people know my dad is a demon right now, so they all know where my allegiance lies a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, blood's a little thicker than water. So, but yeah, it's cool to watch, you know, the Santa Fe teams compete. You know, I wish Santa Fe would have gone a little bit better run there late in the season, but you know, Keeks does a really good job, and you know, my dad's obviously helping with him, but also just having friends still in it, like Cameron and some other guys that are in the state that, you know, hit you up and, you know, text you after games and that sort of stuff is really cool to still have.
That's really cool, man. Let's speaking of which, just talk a little bit about your journey there too. I mean, we kind of mentioned, you know, you were there with Craig Neal, you know, early on as student manager, and then obviously you get the GA opportunity with Coach Weir and everything, and then you kind of went off to was it Wyoming, right? Gillette.
Yeah, Gillette, Wyoming.
Yeah.
So I spent a year there, and then that was kind of at the beginning of COVID. I remember coming back to the state tournament. It was a state tournament that got shut down.
Yeah.
Halfway through, where they just didn't let fans in, and they played like the rest of the games in the empty pit. I was at my dad's quarterfinal game, and basically the world shut down after that. Yeah. And then I stayed in Santa Fe for a few weeks just waiting, and then I got back to Gillette, and they told us that the programs got cut, and we won 26 games that year at Gillette, and wow. We were really, really solid. We lost 5 games that year, and 3 of them were to the same team, and so Sean Neary's had a lot of success at Gillette College, and he's still there as they've come back, but they canceled all sports, and then they canceled it for a couple of years until Gillette separated from Sheridan College. So I'm happy that he's got his job back. And then from there, I kind of had to do some soul searching if I still wanted to be a coach, you know, knowing you get fired and COVID's happening. So you don't know if there's going to be sports, or you don't know what's going to happen. I applied for a couple of little jobs here and there, and, you know, the Western Texas assistant spot opened up, and I didn't really know Kyle Cooper, and he took a chance on me, and we had a really good run that year. Our season didn't start till like March, I believe, or January. It started in the second semester with COVID. I mean, I was taking temperatures. I was doing room checks on all our guys. It was an insane year there. Spent a year there. We were really good. We won the west side of the regional I'm actually going to next week. Or this week, and so we won that side of the region, and then lost, and then I kind of did some more soul searching and tried to find another right fit, and ended up at Frank Phillips College for like 3 months until I got Paul Sather's call. And Sean Neary and Paul Sather were really close, and Coach Jamie Stevens, that's on staff here, was really close, and Paul Sather had recruited a couple guys that I coached at both places. So we had talked on the phone, you know, 5 to 6 times a year. But didn't really know each other. And he called me and he's like, "Hey, I have this position open. I'd like you to interview for it. I can't promise you anything. I'd just like you to interview for it." So, you know, just normal kind of stuff with that. And I got the ops job, was in that role for 2 years here. And then we had some people leave on staff, and he promoted me to assistant coach. So that's kind of the journey. This is my 3rd season as an assistant, and finishing that up, and, you know, kind of crazy to look back, and it's been 13 years since I've been in college basketball, which is crazy.
Yeah, I was around, I've covered the Lobo basketball team for a long time, and I always noticed that when Steve Alford was the head coach, Craig's job was kind of like the good cop. But then when you become the head coach, you have to be the bad cop. And so is it as simple as that, as saying the head coach has to be the guy that's distant where the assistant coaches are the buddies?
I think there's a give and take there, right? Like I wouldn't necessarily call my boss the bad cop. I think there's genuine love that he has for our guys. I think there's times where he's definitely got to be the authoritarian figure where when things aren't going the way that he wants them to go in the direction that he wants them to go, he's got to step his foot forward and, set the standard. But I think all of us, we want to win. So there's days where we go kind of crazy as well and might lose it. And then he gets to be the bad cop in that situation and pick a kid up. So I think every coaching staff is a little bit different, especially the ones I've been around and on. Like I've seen some different ways to do things that are unique, and some I'll take, and some are just lessons for me. And so that's kind of how I take it. But I really love Paul Sather. I really love what we've built here. I think that there's a special community of college basketball fans in Grand Forks. Even though it's a hockey school, I do think there's a group of people that really, really love UND basketball. And so, what we did this week was very special because we were picked 8th in the league in the preseason poll. And some other people had voted us the worst job in our conference. And I don't agree with it. But that's what people thought of us. And we went and showed that, hey, we belong at the top. And so for me, like, I got goosebumps talking about that, because our group just believed, like, probably not very good NIL budget at UND, right? Comparatively speaking to the rest of our league. And we didn't care about that. That's not what mattered. It was about what was in here and how much we fought for each other. I'm getting emotional talking about it because that group was a really, really special group.
Hey, you don't often hear a coach say this is a hockey school. You see but I've seen UND's hockey arena. It is pretty nice.
They call it the Taj Mahal of hockey. Yeah. I mean, it is about as close to an NHL arena as you can get. And I mean, those games are electric. I don't know too much about hockey. That's in Santa Fe, there's not much hocky going on besides at the Chavez Center. Yeah. So like, that's the only place I was ever used to seeing it. But I kind of learned the rules a little bit. So when you watch it, you can kind of understand what's going on, which is fun. And those games, like I said, there's 13,000 people in that arena. It's packed and loud. It's similar, similar to the pit when it gets rocking and you have a pit game. It's an environment.
It's hard for a New Mexican to imagine, isn't it? It's
yeah. I mean, that's one of the only things I can compare it to. Having my lived experience.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, how interesting is that? I mean, you look at when you're at St. Mike's. I mean, you guys always got big crowds there. You guys brought people to the pit whenever you guys got to the semifinals and the championship, and then you're at UNM for about 4 or 5 years there, and then you're kind of seeing the other side of that, where you're happy if you get probably a couple thousand people to show up for games.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different perspective. I think there's like I said, there's a great group of fans here at UND that really, really do support us and are all in on us. And I think that's helpful anywhere you go when you have any type of support is good support, right? Like, but it is different. It is different to kind of see that. I would say our support in our arena is as good as any of the Dakotas and as good as anybody in our league. So it's fun. It's different, but it's fun. I mean, the smaller crowds sometimes are actually a lot more rowdy. They get a lot more into it. So I know we got some people that sit behind our bench, and then our students and our football team, they do a really good job of creating a cool environment in the Betty where we're at. So I can't really complain about it. I mean, our venue is awesome. They keep it really, really clean. It's about 18 years old, 19 years old, but you couldn't tell if you walked in there. So.
Now, I got to ask you, I know you're on Craig's staff. When you were on that team the year they lost to Nevada, the 14-point lead with about a minute and 10 seconds to go. What was
why are you going to bring up that stuff, Will?
Yeah,
that was one of the worst games I've ever been a part of.
Yeah. Me too, because I'd written my story like you'd won the game. I had to rewrite the thing at the last second. So I was like,
I just remember the bank shots.
Yes.
Jordan Caroline. I'll never forget Jordan Caroline for that. Like for the rest of my life. And then like Elijah Brown's shot at the end, it looked like it had a chance. I could vividly remember it leaving his hands, and it was a heartbreaker. And I mean,
That's
I was
what I knew,
actually
is like
sick.
everyone
I was sick to my stomach at the end of
Yeah.
that game. I will say that.
Yeah,
But
that's
there
what I
were some
thought.
really cool times that I experienced in the pit too when we beat Nevada
Yeah.
in the yellow uniforms, right? Like
Yeah.
there was definitely, like we talk about the highs and lows. Like there was a
Mhm.
lot of highs and a lot of lows there. You know, we went to the Mountain West Championship in 2017. That was a very big high for that group, and
Yeah.
you know, we won it in 13 with Cam Bairstow and Alex and Kendall and Hugh. But there was lows too, and there was moments where, you know, you're just like, man, we can't catch a break.
It's hard. It's got to be hard on a coaching staff because there's really, in a lot of ways, there's nothing you can do except kind of ride that roller coaster with everybody too.
No doubt, no doubt. I'm just happy I'm not like Greg. I still have a
Yeah.
little bit of this.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that stays the same. You know, it's starting to whiten out up top a little bit, which I
Yeah.
guess will happen when you get as stressed as us coaches do. But
Yeah.
it'll hopefully I just keep it. It's one of my goals.
Yeah.
Well, are you sure you're in the right job for that, though?
I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know, but I do know this. It's what I was called to do. It is, you know, it's not just an occupation for me. You know, it's what I was called to do. I grew up in a gym. It's one of the only things I really know how to do. It's
Mhm.
the love that I have for the sport and for the relationship piece of it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would rather be in that locker room Sunday night crying and brokenhearted
Mhm.
than doing anything else. And so just building that relationship with all of those guys and knowing that, you know, in 15, 20 years, I'll be at their weddings, or hopefully less than that, but I'll be a part of their lives in some capacity, right? Where in 5 to 10 years, I'll be at their weddings and get to see them raise a family and get to see them become really, really good men.
Yeah, no, the end goal is to become a head coach somewhere eventually someday. Like, where do you feel? Where do you like? What's the timetable for that? I know there's no way to really predict that, but do you feel like you're getting closer to that time where you can take over as a head coach?
I don't know if you're ever really ready to be a head coach.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of an intrinsic thing. You have to feel like, hey, I need to get myself uncomfortable. I don't know the timetable. You know, I know I want to do it. I know I'm ready. I'm, you know, mentally prepared to embark on a journey like that. But from a standpoint of the when, I've kind of let go of that and said, you know, what's right is going to come to me. Me and my wife talk about it all the time. You know, one of our mottos is we're so lucky that good things always happen to us. And so when that time comes, I think I'll be ready and I'll be excited to take that, you know, challenge on head on. And as will she, and that'll be a family decision for us, of course. But at the same time, I'm not in a rush to do something and be somewhere that, you know, I don't love the people I work with every day. I don't love the team that like. I have to take that into consideration too. So really not in a rush, just more so like looking at every day and how can I make today as good as I can. And, you know, if there's an opportunity there to, you know, maybe apply for a job, or I get a phone call from a place that wants me to apply for a job, like really taking a hard look at that and evaluating that will be important. But like I said, I really do love working for Paul. The things he's provided for my family, as far as not just basketball and, you know, like the support he has for Kayla and I, and again, what we've built here is something special, and I don't take that for granted. I'll look back on it, and it'll be some of the most transformative years of my life as a coach and my life as a man. So.
Yeah, well, Final Four is right around the corner. That's the big coaching convention where staffs are filled up right there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the coaching carousel right now. It's a little bit crazy, and it's only going to get crazier. So, like, you know, talking to one of our assistants, not only is like the element of recruiting a hard piece, but so is scheduling, and so like it's everything gets delayed now with this portal date being pushed back to after the Final Four. There's obviously a ton of tampering going on right now, which sucks, especially for these mid-major schools around the country, where these high majors are all they're trying to do is get a leg up on other people and not necessarily cheat, but they're just trying to get ahead. And we all have work to do, but they're trying to get ahead. And so it's hard. You know, you have guys that are hearing from people during the year, and it's not necessarily those staffs, but it's those staffs going through a back channel to get to these kids to ask if they're interested, or say, hey, these guys got this amount of money for you next year. And it's like, guys, we got guys playing in tournament games that are getting these messages after games that they don't need to be hearing from these people. It's not necessary. It's unfortunate for 18 to 22-year-olds to be having to deal with that at the same time as having to perform.
Yeah,
How tough is that for you, especially from a personal perspective? I mean, it wasn't like that even five years ago or 6 years ago, and now it's kind of everything's just happening so quickly and everything, and it changes kind of the structure of your job.
For sure. Like I've talked to more agents in the last 2 years than I've ever talked to in my life. So like that's part of my job now, though, right? Like to start building those relationships. It used to be more so AAU coaches or handlers, which were the same thing as agents. But now it's agents, and there's more discussion involved. There's more kind of evaluation of price and different. It's different. It's just different. Like there's not the same. There's not as much value on facilities and what jersey combinations we have. It's more, it's a little bit more transactional, if I'm being frank, which for good, bad, or otherwise, it's not ideal, but you still try and build that relationship piece in, because I do think that's very, very important. And when push comes to shove, it's about the money.
It really.
I mean, it sucks. It's the truth.
Yeah, I've been to Lobo basketball practices, and I'll pull up in the middle of the morning, and players will come in at the same time, and they're driving cars that I will never in my life be able to afford. Like Donovan Dent, before he went to UCLA last year, he drives up in a brand new black Mustang with tinted windows. It's one of those electric cars. Like, holy cow, man! That car is worth. It's got to be an $85,000 car. But that's the thing is, instead of driving to games and practices in your old beat up Datsun pickup truck with a rusted bumper, or maybe walking, these guys are rolling in all kinds of money, and it is truly a professional sport now. No matter what level you're at, it's always the money is the bottom line, and it's sad to see. Yeah,
I would still say there's somewhat of an educational piece, and it might not necessarily be from just like the college education. I think we're still teaching these guys how to be at our level, especially. Like, we don't have the money that New Mexico has. That's not a secret. There's still an element of teaching like life to these guys. That's the educational piece. At least I still feel. But you're right. Like there's you get up to the higher levels a little bit. It's a little bit more scary as far as that transactional piece. But for lack of better words, I'd say scary. There's just some things that like how they manage that money is really important, and making sure you're providing those resources as a coach to make sure they're not spending that money in the wrong places or using it all in the wrong stuff. I mean, we had Trace and Eagle staff go to West Virginia last year, and we kind of knew beforehand he was leaving. He had 2 or 3 really big games, and so that was my big thing to him, is like I love the kid to death, and I just wanted him to make sure that what he got, as substantial as that money was for him, like he made sure that sustained him over the next 10 to 15 years of his life, not just today,
right? Not
just this year.
Yeah. I'm just curious, how much money would an Estevan Sandoval basketball player gotten in the NIL deal?
I wasn't even a preferred walk-on.
You could have gotten something.
I wasn't even a preferred walk-on, Will, unfortunately.
Coach, I'm not coming here for anything less than $15,000. I need $15,000 cash.
I was a preferred walk-on. I promise you that. But I know this: the 8 managers in the manager game never wanted to guard me.
Really?
Of course.
Like Coach, if Donovan Dent's getting $3 million, I should get at least $20,000 as a walk-on. Come on.
Oh no!
Or at least pay for my tuition, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I got that as a manager, man. I wish I got that as a manager, but that's that's part of it, is there was life lessons learned in that as well, and the struggle of that, and the bond you make with that team, right? Like, we were a team of managers at New Mexico. You still make a bond with that team, and you go through the ups and downs and the highs and lows of that, and I think all the guys in my wedding besides one were managers. So like, and the other one was a friend from St. Mike's that was my roommate in college. And so you build those bonds and lessons and, friendships from the struggle of it. And it's one of the cool pieces of college sports that still exists, regardless of, the money and all that stuff. You still end up having the hardships and the hard stuff is what actually makes you a tougher, more grown man.
I'm going to, James, I'll let you have another question, but I think I've saved the hardest question for the very end of this interview. On Friday, there's a very real possibility that St. Mike's plays the Union School in the Class 3A semifinals. I'm just, how divided is the House of Sandoval for that game if it does come to pass?
Well, don't tell my in-laws this, but I'll still be rooting for it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be watching.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be watching this, so they'll hear it. I'll be, let's go Horsemen, man. Let's go Horsemen.
Whatever JUCO tournament you're at, man, you got to
Friday, I'll be somewhere south of Fresno, College of Sequoias, watching Fullerton College. So
there you go.
Way to keep yourself busy and not have to worry about that, right?
Yeah, I'll probably be checking the score. I'll have the notifications of New Mexican sports going, Will. So just,
there you go.
Be ready to go.
Yeah. Well, dude, thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it a lot.
It's always really cool to see people like you doing really well because we cover you in high school. We have a chance to watch you grow up. And in a lot of ways, it's rewarding for us. James and I have both been around for about 30 years, and it's very cool to see guys that we just because when you were just an awkward teenager, now you're a grown man making decisions and changing the world yourself. There's a sense of pride going on there, and it feels good to see you out there.
No doubt, and just a kid from Santa Fe trying to do right by what I was taught by my father and by Ron Geyer and different coaches along the way, right? But anything is kind of possible, and I felt that over the last week. I felt that going into getting this job here, like there's a lot of possibilities in the world, and so for the kids in Santa Fe, like there's a lot that you can go accomplish, and I don't think that you should hinder yourself to just being in Santa Fe your whole life or just staying in New Mexico. Like branching out and trying to touch the world is really, really important, and it's something that I've tried to do. There would be nothing that made me happier than to end up being back at home at the University of New Mexico. But ultimately, like where God's going to take me is where I'm meant to be, and that's where I got to put my best foot forward and give my all to the kids that I coach and the coaches I coach with, and being really, really present and intentional with that for the rest of my life and for the rest of my career.
I love to hear that. That's great. Just super proud of everything you've done. But Estevan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Will.
And hopefully when you take over at the University of New Mexico, is when Ryan Berryman brings you on after Eric Olin leaves, you'll remember us little guys at the Santa Fe, New Mexico. Yeah.
Well, you'll get the first question, Will, not Jeff.
Okay, it's about damn time.
Thanks for joining us.
Hey, I'll hold my promise to that too, just so you know.
All right.
All right, Estevan. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Have a good one. See you guys.
All right. Okay.
Thanks.
That is Estevan Sandoval, the assistant basketball coach at the University of North Dakota. It does stink that they got beat in the conference in the Summit finals, but all the better for UNM because if UNM gets in,
I see where your mindset is, man. It's like, sorry, Estevan, it sucks for you guys, but hey, the Lobos are still alive. Thanks.
You saved a bid for a second Mountain West team other than Utah State, so that's the way it goes. But
I love your priorities, Will.
Yeah, it's just part of the state basketball tournament atmosphere is to see people like him who participated in it and has a chance. He's had his hands on it to move on and help really develop the game at the next level. So it's cool to see. I like to see it.
Absolutely.
So tune in later in the week. We'll have another podcast on Thursday. We'll have to find time between games, between the Star Center or the Event Center. It's still taking some getting used to.
Yeah.
Event Center
and before the Lobo game, right?
And then before the Lobo game. Yeah, we'll have to do that. Of course, the newsletter, you can go on to SantaFeNewMexican.com. Newsletters, look for In the Huddle. That is our sports newsletter. We're going to be updating that every day. And when I say we, I mean James Barron. James Barron will be doing that. So lots of girls games Tuesday, Wednesday is all boys, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday is just a combination of both. And of course, single elimination by Friday afternoon. We'll have a really good idea of who's going where. So keep track of it, and any story ideas, hit us up. And thanks for joining us.